Hey there. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about design principles. And what I'm going to do is just demonstrate for you by showing you a bunch of like what not to do, basically. So I'm going to use this beautiful template of ours, the Marigold template. And I am just going to absolutely make a mess of it and show you some way simple ideas, but really important that you can implement on your own website when you DIY. Okay, so let's just take a quick little stroll through the Marigold template just to show you. I'm going to talk you through kind of like the choices that I've made here and then contrast it with the mess that I made on the other site. Okay, so thinking about white space, first of all, white space, I'm talking about like this extra space, this extra breathing room that's around some of the different elements. I have gone with, let's see, a sort of like smaller chunks of text and breaking them up using headings, and breaking them up here to using like a couple of different images just to kind of, again, sort of give that breathing room. So you can read this piece, you have a little bit of breathing room, you can read this piece, and it helps the content stand out more than if it was just all in a big chunk. Again, lots of breathing room in this margins on the side. The margins just refer to that empty space that's on the side of your website. And that's actually built into most website builders. Certainly in Squarespace, there's like a little bit of margin here that is important to heed, but you can even go further like I have here and really pull the margins in really tight. And when you add just a little bit of content, it really does help you zero in on this content. And again, gives it a very calming feeling because there's plenty of white space. So it allows you to take things in without feeling overwhelmed. And then again, using bullet points to kind of break up ideas and make it easier to skim, and using photos that relate. I'm just going to go back up here a sec. The photos relate. So this is, for example, this is the section that's about you, about the therapist. So it should have a picture of the therapist. As you're talking directly to your client, your ideal client, maybe you have some pictures of some folks that kind of represent that client that you love to work with. So the photos kind of should make some sense. I mean, they can be pretty, but they should have like a reason for being there, not be totally random. We can imagine this photo is like bringing about the idea of someone in a office having a conversation maybe with a therapist, right? So again, lots of white space here. The idea of balance. So just like noticing that this text and this image are sort of proportional to each other. Like the text doesn't hang way, way down below the image. They're kind of like centered to each other. They're like balanced on a seesaw. And then again, sort of like using just some visuals to up the content so it's not just in like one big block. In this template, you've got like these little drop downs so that if the person wants to know more about this particular service, they can find out more, but they don't have to scroll forever to like get to where they want to go. Breaking things into FAQs, that's another way of breaking up content. And then again, lots of white space here. Repeating the theme. So as you go through, you'll see this little like wavy border and these like some of these like rounded shapes. So all those things kind of repeat, rounded edges. So those are all just kind of like repeating themes that you go through in this website. And then down here you have like an informative footer with all the helpful content for the person to navigate. There's even like a little back to top here. So now that I've shown you that and kind of talked you through the thinking behind these choices, let's head over to my demo. Okay. So this demo is, in fact, based upon some real mistakes that I see therapists make on their website. So I thought I would kind of pull them all together. And honestly, this is really not far off of like things that I really truly see all on one website. So we're again. Okay. So first we notice right away that we're missing this like margin on the left, and there's lots of writing taking up a lot of space. And if you look, there's no breathing room, for it's a lot kind of all like packed into one section, and it can be hard to know where to look. The photos they don't really make sense. They're not connected to one another by color or by theme. And this is a therapy website, so they also don't really seem to have anything to do with therapy, right? They're random. There's no kind of like space really between this first section and the next. Like this button is hitting right onto the next section. You would really want to have a little bit of extra space in between So like see how there's a button here, but there's lots of space. There's always space from one section to another so that the content is not hitting right against the other section. In this section, you have a lot of kind of smallish text with no headings to kind of guide you as to what section is really about. Also, we're using like centered text for long bits of text, and doing that is actually not a good practice. You really want to, in general, if you have like longer bits of text, we should really be left aligning those because it's easier for the eye. This also stretches really far across the screen. I think I made this one even worse. Yeah, this one's even worse. So we want to keep the sentence length to, I forget the actual number, but I would say like this would be like the longest kind of sentence length, because eye movement studies show that people have a harder time reading content when it's much longer than this, length that I've highlighted here. So as well as centered text is just harder to read. So what else in this section? Again, another photo that's kind of like disjointed, random, not super related to anything, and also not related to the photos that we've already seen. And then you'll notice I've brought in now the second underline style. So we have this one up at the top. And then now we also have this one. And Squarespace has so many cool features, right? Like this is a Squarespace website and they have these cool things like these underlines and these image shapes and stuff like that. But what happens a lot of times is when you're DIYing, it's like trying to use every single design style or option that you have available. And that's when it really starts to not look polished or professional anymore. And it starts to get distracting, confusing, and overwhelming. So we've got, this extra underline, we've got this new shape introduced that is like really different than the others we've seen so far. Again, I already spoke to the text. Then we have a new border style, and this is a lovely border style. I love that border style. However, it's now adding an additional element. So we have this kind of wavy border and then this border. And then here in this section where you're adding a different style of text underline, a lot of text. I forgot to mention my favorite, the photo of the stack of rocks. So let's go back to that for a second. In this section, if this is the section that's about you, it should have a photo of you. But also just to speak to like using photos that are original and that makes sense and that you don't see on every other therapy website. So I see a lot of photos that are like this, like ocean views with rocks stacked up. And that's lovely, but because it's kind of such a trope at this point, I would really like consider finding something else that's a little bit more authentic and original to you. Ocean, I love the ocean. Photos of people doing things that they would never do in real life, like standing in front of an ocean with their arms out. I would avoid that. It's corny. You see it on a lot of websites. And then we've got here new border style also. That's again like completely not connected to any of the other styles that we've seen so far in the website. And then down at the bottom, we don't have any call to action. We don't really know exactly what to do next. The page just kind of ends. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. That's kind of like a quick and dirty review of one great way to avoid a lot of these pitfalls is to start from a website template. So my shop has a bunch with some more on the way. And all you have to do is just choose the one that looks most like how you want. Here's the Marigold template. And the really cool thing is all the pages are already built out for you and they're already made with these core design principles. So you don't have to overthink it. All you have to do is just enter your own content, your photos to make it your own. You can change colors and fonts, but the spacing is there, the layout, the navigation, it's all there. And you don't have to put so much brain power into it. So to me, templates as a DIY designer, that is the way to go. So if you want to check out my templates, it's at gobloomcreative.com.